Kuzusampo, you are watching Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program with me, Kinzang Hatin. These are our top stories from the week that passed by. His Majesty the King grants Da to new Attorney General and newly elected Summer Cup. Nikachu hydropower plant generates almost 40 million Newton since commissioning last month. His Majesty the King granted Da to appoint the new Attorney General and to the newly elected Cup of Summer Geok in Ha on Thursday. The new Attorney General is Sonam Tashi, who was serving as the officiating Attorney General. The new Summer Gap Sangedoji was elected in by-elections held in February this year after the incumbent Gaps resigned from the office. His Holiness the Jekempo will be bestowing Wanglung Trisum or oral transmission of Tirthan Sangelingpa's treasure teachings from 11th March. Preparations are ongoing at Outso Central School in Hunsi. His Holiness also visited the place to oversee the preparations on Wednesday. According to Hunsi's Lam Nete, the ceremony is being held after about 3 decades in the country. The working committee for the event said that the preparations are almost completed and that the venue will be able to accommodate about 15,000 devotees. The 2-week-long ceremony will end with the 3-day Melam Chemo.
The treasure teachings of Tirthan Sangilingpa is for the benefit of the people of Bhutan. The treasure teaching, which is a culmination of prayers and blessings for over thousands of generations, discovered by an enlightened being in the form of Tirthan Sangilingpa. Attending this sacred religious ceremony will benefit all of us.
The Office of the Holy Gold Script handed a 444-paged gold-scripted Gektongpa text to the Ha District Administration on Tuesday. Gektongpa, or the Perfect Wisdom Sutra in 8,000 verses, is considered as the main relic and the most important teaching of the Buddha. The project, an upshot of the Royal Kanjur project initiated under His Majesty's Secretariat, aims to further nurture and develop local artisans to write Buddhist scripts in gold. The handing-taking ceremony was presided over by the former Tsula Lebe. The event was attended by the representatives from the His Majesty's Secretariat, Lamnete, and officials of Ha District Administration. The Gektongpa was scripted in gold at a cost of 3.5 million Newton through donations from the people of Ha.
Though we have very few gold-scripted religious texts in our country, there have been no newly written gold-scripted religious texts so far. Therefore, under His Majesty's command, the Office of the Holy Gold Script began its work, starting with Ha District. After completing the Royal Kanjur project, His Majesty commanded us not to close the office, but to continue the gold calligraphy works, fulfilling the wishes and orders of people all over the country.
Bhutan is well on track towards implementing the Sustainable Development Goals despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. More than 40% of the SDG targets have been achieved or are on track. This is according to the Sustainable Development Report 2023. The report is a global assessment of each country's progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are a set of 17 global goals established by the United Nations to end poverty, protect the Earth's environment and climate, and ensure that people everywhere can enjoy peace and prosperity. They aim to make the world a better place for everyone by addressing these issues by 2030. The Sustainable Development Report states that Bhutan has achieved the 13th goal of climate action out of the 17 SDGs. According to the UN Resident Coordinator, the country's strict forest protection measures and land management practices have helped the country achieve its environmental goals and climate action.
In South Asia, Bhutan continues to be a leader in environmental conservation, renewable energy, and social well-being. And this has garnered a lot of recognition from the neighboring countries. And I have to say that Bhutan has also set the bar very, very high.
She added that efforts to keep the goal on track should continue as the country is vulnerable to climate impacts. Similarly, the goals in the education and health sectors have seen significant improvements. According to the UN statistics, newborn deaths have decreased by over 3% between 2015 and 2021. Likewise, enrollment for primary school stands at 93% and secondary school at over 90%.
I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention the focus on education and healthcare has also yielded significant results, even at the halfway mark. Additionally, Bhutan has worked hard to empower women and children through education and economic opportunities, and this is reflected in its commitment to gender equality.
Despite the progress made, the country faces challenges such as poverty eradication, bridging the gaps in income inequality, economic diversification, and addressing the needs of the vulnerable groups, according to the report.
When we look at all of these together, we need to understand that the intricacies of these goals, that they're interconnected and that they have to be coordinated. And this takes a lot of effort because it's across many different sectors. And stakeholders need to come together to agree on how this is going to happen.
Currently, Bhutan's SDG index rank stands at 61 out of 166 countries. For Sonam Palkit, Devika Pradhan for BBS News.
The World Bank's latest Bhutan Labour Market Assessment report says job qualities outside the public sector is still weak with rising unemployment in urban areas. The report also states that the country's labour market is also not able to meaningfully engage Bhutanese women and educated youth. The country's overall unemployment rate stands at 3.5%, while youth unemployment has hit 15.9%.
The report highlights that Bhutan's employment support programs are facing challenges, particularly in activating women, providing job-relevant skills, and helping firms access trained labor. Although the unemployment rate increased during the pandemic for both men and women, women's unemployment rate grew at a higher rate. With unemployment rate yet to drop to pre-pandemic levels, the report suggests that the discouraged worker effect might have contributed to the rise in unemployment. Discouraged worker effect is the decision a person makes to refrain from searching for jobs due to low chances of employment in the labor market. Bhutan's unemployment rates were stable between 2013 and 2019 but rose during the pandemic and continued to rise in 2022. The unemployment rate increased from 4.8% in 2021 to 5.9% in 2022. This, according to the report, could be because workers, especially urban women who entered the labor market during the pandemic, may have stopped looking for jobs in 2022 due to lesser chances of landing a job. The report also states that the country's private sector lacks firm dynamism. More than 95% of private firms are seen having less than 5 employees and without any substantial growth over time. Limited job opportunities, especially for skilled workers and youth migration, are attributed to this stunted growth in the private sector. Most of the business establishments are found concentrated in a few districts which mostly deal in trade, retail and food services with low productivity. This, according to the report, is causing significant challenges for the economic growth and employment. To address these issues, the report recommends vertical growth policies that focus on sector-specific support for private sector development and job creation. In addition, the report suggests horizontal reforms that improve the business environment, strengthen human capital accumulation, and enhance the effectiveness of employment support programs. For Reshma Rai, this is Tikil Hazum for BBS News.
The Nikachu hydropower plant in Trongsa has exported more than 11 million units of electricity to India after it was commissioned around a month ago. This means that the hydropower plant has generated a revenue of more than 36 million yutam from exports as of the end of February.
Nikachu hydropower plant in Trongsa began its electricity exports to India on January 25. According to officials from Tasipji Hydro Energy Limited, which is the implementing agency of the project, the hydropower plant is currently exporting electricity to the Power Trading Company of India. Electricity is being exported at a rate of 3.3 Newton per unit as per the power purchase agreement. The power generated from the plant was connected to the national grid on January 18. So far, it has distributed more than 1.6 million units of electricity to the national grid. With a domestic rate of 3.89 Newton per unit, the plant has generated domestic revenue of more than 6.2 million Newton so far. Looking ahead, the project officials estimate an annual production of 491 million units of electricity, generating an estimated revenue of 1.6 billion Newton annually. The hydropower plant is also expected to generate 105 million units of electricity during lean months from November to April. The project officials say that once the lean months end, all the electricity generated from Nikachu hydropower plant will be exported. Karmasum Tanwangda, PBS News.
If you lose a case in the district court, appeal to the High Court, and you lose the case again, or the High Court dismisses your case, then you will have to pay an appeal or litigation cost. The cost introduced by the High Court is similar to the one which exists with the Supreme Court. The measure was introduced a few years ago to discourage unnecessary harassment and maintain sanctity of the legal process. However, legal service providers shared mixed feelings about the initiative. The litigation or appeal cost can be anywhere between 3,700 to 11,700 Newton, which is 1 to 3 months of minimum wage rate. The High Court has asked appellants to pay only for 1 month so far. According to the Judiciary's Media and Communication Unit, payment should be made during the time of the judgment. If the judgment gets partially or fully reversed, the appellant need not pay the amount. The Media and Communication Unit clarified that the appeal cost is different from the court fee, which is between 50 to 100 Newton. While for those who appeal to the Supreme Court, they have to pay 45,000 Newton when an appeal is lodged. If the appellants lose a civil case, the amount will be paid to the other party. However, if the judgment gets partially or fully reversed, the amount will be given back. Meanwhile, several legal service providers welcomed the initiative as it prevents unnecessary appeals, but shared their concerns as it might pose challenges to those who are from economically disadvantaged background.
In my opinion, when someone appeals to the High Court and if the judgment remains the same, then it seems fair for the other person to compensate the other party for all the hassles and expenses incurred. Until now, there was no such system.
The judges of the judiciary must have done their best research and made this system solely with good intentions, and I have no say on this system.
After the district court passed a judgment, and if the appellant still wants to cause inconvenience for the other party, then I think imposing a minimum of 1 month's wage rate as litigation cost is required.
According to the Annual Judiciary Report 2023, more than 460 cases were appealed from the district courts to the High Court last year. The High Court passed judgments whereby 86 were upheld, 16 fully reversed, and 64 partially reversed. Kinsang Haden, PBS News. Over 6,000 individuals were arrested in drug-related cases last year, marking a significant increase from previous years. While the rise in arrests has been attributed to intensified monitoring, efforts are also underway to assist those arrested and those battling drug addiction. Specialized interventions such as substance use disorder treatments and care services are provided to detained drug offenders.
Sonam Jamso, aged 32, was in 8th grade when he witnessed older boys abusing drugs. One thing led to another and Sonam became hooked.
When I saw them taking drugs, I tried one to experiment. I started taking more and more, eventually becoming heavily addicted.
His addiction led him to stealing money to buy drugs, robbing people, and engaging in burglary.
I turned towards chemicals, mainly used on furniture. Becoming heavily addicted to them, it hampered my academic life as I could not concentrate on my studies and had to repeat. I then got addicted to SP plus capsules.
His troubled life and drug addiction were not without consequences. Sonam spent almost 6 years in prison on 3 different occasions. Even after his release from prison in 2022, he continued to abuse drugs until he decided enough was enough and sought help from the Pema Secretariat in November of last year. 4 months later, Sonam has not seen the sight of drugs. The Pema Secretariat, in collaboration with the National Drug Task Force, provides substance use disorder treatments and care services to individuals detained for substance abuse. Currently, the Pema Secretariat is drafting a strategy to address substance use issues through both demand and supply reduction.
The other thing is now to address the drug use issue. That it should not be one organization responsibility. So police alone cannot handle this. But the PEMA alone cannot do it. So all relevant stakeholders, for that matter, everyone should come together to fight this menace of drugs.
The strategy also aims to enhance health services provided to people struggling with substance use issues. Last year, the Pema Secretariat referred more than 3,000 individuals to treatment for substance use. Additionally, over 350 individuals were referred for treatment in the first 2 months of this year. Regarding the 6,205 drug-related arrests made last year, the highest number were reported in Thimphu, Phensley, and Galifu. The majority of those arrested belonged to the 18 to 39 age group. According to the police, the establishment of the Narcotic Drug and Other Vices Division, along with 7 police stations dedicated to curbing drug-related issues, also contributed to the increase in the number of arrests. Meanwhile, for Sonam, staying away from drugs has allowed him to spend time with his parents and loved ones, moments that were taken away from him by drugs. With additional information from Kinsaladin, this is Tashtekar for BBS News.
Sorik Shine and Lujong, a mindfulness and yoga practice based on the Bhutanese traditional medicine system, is gaining popularity in schools across the country after its introduction last year. The practice was initiated in schools by the Pema Secretariat in collaboration with the National Traditional Medicine Hospital. Students and teachers who practice Sorik Shine and Lujong say it has been helpful to them.
Designed to improve the functions of the sensory and inner organs and mind relaxation, the Sorik Shine and Lujong include 32 exercises. Sorik Shine was introduced by a 12th century physician, Yotok Yönten Gyombo, known as the father of Tibetan medicine. Before introducing the practice in schools, teachers and health workers from different districts were trained by the National Traditional Medicine Hospital.
Sorik Shine refers to the practice of keeping our mind focused, and Lujong means exercise for our body. There are a total of 32 exercises divided into 5 subparts, namely Sorik Shine, warm-ups, exercises for mental health, general exercises for people of all age groups, and exercises for patients who could not be cured by medicine.
Students say practicing Sorik Shine and Lujong helped them develop a healthy mind and body, improved their focus, relieved stress, and added to their overall well-being.
As a student, we're stressed because of our studies. So joining this initiative not only promotes mental well-being, but also helps us concentrate while studying. Unlike regular meditation, which only focuses on breathing, this one also helps enhance physical well-being.
that I could focus more on my studies and I could be mindful of my actions as well. So I think that it's different from the usual mindful practices that we do in school. It's that it also focuses on our body itself.
According to teachers, students mostly need mental health exercises compared to other exercises.
It is hard to identify the benefits of Sorik Shine and Lijong, but if I have to measure, they are 100% beneficial. After practicing them, those who are suffering from mental illnesses can now interact better with other people. We do this exercise thrice a week rigorously before the beginning of the class for 1 hour.
According to the National Traditional Medicine Hospital, the Sorik Shine and Lujong practice will now be implemented in all schools across the country. For Pasang Tema and Funsolhamo, Namgedem, BBS News.
The Bhutan Transparency Initiative is urging parliamentarians to enact a Witnesses and Whistleblowers Protection Act in the country. This was shared at a workshop attended by parliamentarians, representatives from civil society organizations and media houses in Paro on the 29th of February. The Bhutan Transparency Initiative emphasized that such an act would empower people to speak out against wrongdoings and curb corruption in the country.
Following a day-long brainstorming session on the prevalence of corruption and identifying shortcomings in anti-corruption efforts in the country, all the participants, including the members of parliament, agreed through a show of hands that there is a need to enact a Witnesses and Whistleblowers Protection Act.
People are not reporting corruption. They see corruption, they experience corruption, they want to report, but because it's a small society, they don't want to be taken as black sheep. So if we have Protection Act, then people will feel much more secure. They will report. And even organizations who receive the reports, they will also be careful. They will not leak out the identity of the complainant or reporter. That will be leak out.
Chapter 7 of the Anti-Corruption Act 2011 mentions the protection of witnesses and informers, but the Bhutan Transparency Initiative says more needs to be done.
The ACC Act, the comprehensive is quite brief.
The chapter in the ACC Act is very brief and not comprehensive. For instance, in other countries there are separate acts for whistleblowers. In other countries, whistleblowers will be protected to the level of changing identity and changing country. That is the level of protection we are looking at.
While it is not sure if the outcome of the workshop would help culminate in comprehensive legislation for the protection of witnesses and whistleblowers, the Bhutan Transparency Initiative has plans to enhance corruption reporting efforts. From this, the CSO will be opening regional offices in Bumthang and Mongar soon. For Namgyeonchu in Paro, this is Tikil Hazum for BBS News.
That's all for this week. Thank you for watching.